Hello everyone, Łukasz here.
Hi everyone.
So it's Tuesday. It's a lovely weather outside. Let's start our webinar. It will take 60 minutes or so. And the subject of today's webinar is venture building, how to scale a startup.
Right. Hello everyone. This is Duke, your host here today. As previously also in episode 1, we have a lot of materials to cover today. So let's move it quickly. I hope that you have done your homework and have seen the first episode of this series. But here we go. We will go right into this part, which is how to scale your startup. From the point which you have done your product market fit. Łukasz, could you give us like a context or background?
Yes, sure. So as Dick mentioned, we have a lot of material to cover today. Our aim for this webinar was to give you an overview of the landscape without any deep dives into one direction or another. And we would welcome follow-up meetings or follow-up engagement with you if you find any of these topics interesting for you or something that you would like to consider to test out. Please contact us. We are here to engage with you, and today you will hear a lot, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. So the agenda for today is that we will cover the context. It's episode number 2 out of 3. The first one was about starting, looking for a problem market fit, building MVP, building product, and beachhead strategy. So that was the first episode. Today we are in the second step, how to scale your startup. We will present growth strategies. We will discuss sales and marketing activities, good tactics. We will mention some tools and automations. And I'm really excited about the company and its culture. It's something really close to me. I've been growing a company myself at some point of time. It has tripled in size, and I feel I have something valuable to share with you today. We will conclude with Q&A. So you can type your comments on YouTube channel. You can type your questions there. We will pick them at the end of the webinar. And it's going to be, we aim for 60 minutes. So the context. You found the problem worth solving. Probably you have your first customers, and your product is accepted by the market. So what you want to do now is to scale up. You want to grow your company, you want to gain some market share, and you want to ideally increase your top line and bottom line. So this is what you are, and today we will discuss how to do it. Your main challenges to scaling up a startup are around product management, assembling the right capabilities, and building a growth culture. So by product management, you've built an MVP or maybe a first production version of your product. But now you receive a lot of feedback. Now you need to decide which is the good direction for your product. Now you have to add more features or do a pivot, whatever it is, you have to manage your product. And that requires a lot of effort. So this is a big challenge, and you may look for some partners to do that in the field of product management services. You want to assemble the capabilities that will give you competitive advantage, that will allow you to actually build your product when it comes to the core element of your product in-house. You wouldn't like to give away your intellectual property. So there are some strategic and critical capabilities that you need to assemble into your organization, whether it's through acquisitions or hiring or partnership, that depends on your situation. And you need to build a growth culture. It's a really unfortunate situation when you continue to decide about everything because it wouldn't scale. So how to make sure that you empower people around you, how to make sure that the culture of the company is focused on innovation and growing. There are some methods to do that, and we will discuss them today. So let's move on to growth strategies. When you are crafting your growth strategy, there are a couple of questions you need to ask yourself. Let's say you have a product that is well received by some segment of the market. How do you move on from there? Do you target new customer with the same product? Do you go to a different location, different country, or do you basically focus on acquiring more customers? Or maybe you would like to create new propositions, new offerings for your existing customer base because they already are buying from you. So probably you can upsell. Next is about what are the capabilities that you have to build a totally new product for a new customers. This is very risky strategy, but some companies do that, especially if they need to. And the last question is how to assemble these capabilities that you need to grow. And here I have a quick or maybe rather short story about Pepsi and Cola. So a while ago, Pepsi and Coke were looking how to grow their business beyond carbonated beverages. And they have done research. And the conclusion was that juices, iced teas, this type of sports drinks, this type of products would allow them to differentiate easily. And with differentiation comes opportunity for profit. So they concluded that they have to go to this iced teas and sports drinks because it's so much easier to differentiate, to build a product that has a good match between the brand and the market. And they have done so. Of course, they have not abandoned carbonated water. Later on, they have adopted also this segment of the market. But they've started with place where they could differentiate more easily. So as you can imagine, you have different elements of your growth strategy that you need to evaluate. So things to evaluate when you consider your growth options are, can you differentiate? Can you gain by that competitive advantage? Is your product unique? What about the market size? What are you selling actually, to whom? What is the growth rate? And are the benefits bigger than the cost of entering this new market or new segment? These are like the 4 fundamental things to consider when you need to decide on your growth strategy. And sometimes people are tempted to do many things at once. So avoid complexity and simultaneous activities. Basically, complexity will kill the growth. You have to test one thing at a time. So as we mentioned, there's a lot to be done during growing company. And one of the options that actually is something really close to us, to pragmatic coders, is a strategic alliance. It's not a secret that we work in pragmatic coders, and for many of the startups, we are an implementation partner. It's one of the easy ways for you to grow your business, because you could have dedicated product development team, or if your product is really big, you could have multiple teams that will work in large-scale product development framework. This is bread and butter for pragmatic coders. This is what we do for many startups. And we're very proud that our teams are making the growth possible for our customers.
Right. So this is something that I will talk about. This part is selling. It's actually solving your customers' business problems. So you never sell something that is outright, let's say, not needed by the customer. So these are the, of course, this presentation will be sent to you guys. I appreciate that you are here, and we will send you all the materials so you can look at all those selling frameworks that are existing. My favorite one is the spin selling. So that's short for situation, problem, implication, need, payoff. So you basically, the way you talk to your customers, you build your presentations, you build your website is first, to have a context, a background of this situation for the customer to recognize. And then you search for the problems, for the challenges that the customer has. And the implication is one of the most important part, is that you actually define inactions or results of inactions by the customer that could result in higher costs, delayed product launch. Those are the implications of taking the wrong route, and then you reflect on that, and tell your customer that those needs can have higher payoffs if you choose our solution or if you choose our product, right? So the implication is most vital part of this spin selling, is that you give the customer a sense of urgency, that they need to solve the problem right now in order to save the costs in the future, for having turning customers. These are building the urgency is something that is really, really important in selling and fundraising, which I will tell you about later on. So the basic of marketing sales is that you have the funnel, and the top of the funnel is the marketing jobs, right? So the marketing department is responsible for acquisition, for prospecting the clients, and build the lead space. This is actually what Łukasz does in the company. And there's the middle of the funnel is that there's a shared job between marketing and sales, is that we define rules, either is in the software, or by building the pipeline among ourselves in the team, is building the marketing qualified lead, let's say, rules, right? So which leads are qualified, which leads can be taken care of, let's say, or taken at the further step of the funnel. And my job here as a head of consulting and part of the sales job is to close that customer sale. So there are different, also kind of different level of sales roles in the company, from prospecting, which is qualifying leads taken from the marketing department, to closing. By closing, I mean running sales meetings and demos. This is what I do. And negotiations, writing proposals, estimations, taking the MVP or even an idea of the customer to forge that into some kind of proposal or estimation for the lean MVP version, closing the deals, and then you have to provide onboarding, you have to provide the training, and then think about ways to help your customers like after the launch of the product, right? So this is something that those are 4 basic steps which defines your sales pipeline and sales roles in the company. For a lot of startups and software as a service companies, there should be steps or pipeline statuses that need to be implemented into the sales process. So what you see here is like an example of such pipeline where there's a recognition of needs. Say someone goes to your website because they search the phrase about buying or building a crypto exchange. So that's a recognition of needs, and that's someone after viewing your website is they are committed to change. They are committed to change their software team. They are committed to change. To buy your product, and then they evaluate options. And this is something that you need to step in. Assure your customers, your clients that you are the right company, you are the right product, you're building the right product for them, and then let them commit, which is another step. To committing to a solution is another step. So your sales team, you can measure your success, the success of the sales team by the sales velocity. So sales velocity is something very similar to in Scrum, is that it's like a developer velocity. So sales velocity equals opportunities times win rate times deal size, and you divide that on the sales cycle, right? So obviously, software as a service companies have much shorter sales cycle, so the sales velocity will be much higher. So as for B2B service companies, the sales cycle is so much longer. So effectively decreasing that sales velocity. So this is something that you really need to look into inside your organization when growing your startup. For after the product market fit phase. So this is an example of software service sales funnel. So what you see here is there are a lot of inbound leads, which sends some kind of estimations or the request for pricing, and then you have a meeting demo, which accounts for around 60% or 70% of all the leads that come into the website, and after all you have 8% of warm leads after all, getting down to all from top to bottom of that funnel. This is an example of real world software services company that does visual graphs, online visual graphs, and you can automate a lot of those things, qualifying the leads, building the funnel. You can use, for example, Segment, which is an amazing tool that I know that a couple of startups doing very well. Is that it connects all those, in all of this data from your website, from your mobile device, from the apps, from your, any kind of product that can have JavaScript implemented, which is basically like everything right now. And then it leads, it builds one customer profile for all those channels, and then send it out the data to your intercom, to your Facebook marketing, to your data analytics, Google data analytics, or Salesforce, right? And then you can build automation processes using Autopilot. Those are the rules that if, for example, a customer stays on a website more than 5 minutes, it is probably, a customer which is interested in your product. Then, send out like a message to their email that, hey, we should book a call to talk about our product, right? So those are the two tools that you could use. When building your marketing and sales team, you have to be very clear in terms of which steps or which steps should be taken to lead the lead through the funnel. So we have to define, let's say, a qualification, let's say, outlined guidelines for for a success, to create like a more successful funnel with a higher conversion rate, right? So you don't waste time on clients or customers that are on a very early stage of the funnel. You have to build the right tools, either it's calling or by SMSs or by emailing, depending on the stage of the lead status, right? So for both sales and fundraising, and I've seen a lot of fundraising processes based on fear of missing out. I mean, it's human nature to not wanting to be the last or missing out on opportunities, right? So perfect example here, right? From the left side, as you see here, is the Booking.com example, which is a FOMO embedded into the website, right? So when you book a room on Booking.com, there are always messages, red messages, where they say that only 6 rooms or 1 room left in this suite, or in the last 24 hours there have been 90 people that booked this space. So we have this kind of urgency. There are a lot of tricks to do that in sales. So have limited time frame to offer. For example, this offer is valid for 5 days, right? Offer discounts for first buyers, show social validation. People who bought this item also bought something else, right? And show urgency, which is is FOMO, as an example of Booking.com right here. As for fundraising, all those large rounds, like amazing, financial rounds that you see in TechCrunch or Crunchbase, they're all based on FOMO, right? So the moment that the first VC commits any kind of money, every VC will want to jump the bandwagon, right? So this is something really important to nail when you are an entrepreneur, fundraising. That FOMO is of crucial importance. So this what I do use a lot. This is the process that I use a lot, and it has effectively generated a lot of leads. Is at least for me, and this has been proven to work. First step, you use the Sales Navigator, amazing tool which costs around 59 euros per month. You take all the contacts, you save them as leads. And then you could use any kind of web scraping or email verification programs, and then get the informational contact, and then you could either directly invite them to your LinkedIn network, and then talk with them, engage in a conversation, or you could use their, like, let's say, all their professional information to research about their needs. And then what I also use a lot is Mixmax. This is an automated tool for which is integrated into Gmail, and it effectively reduce the time for you to write emails, sending out campaigns, or talk with your prospect leads. It does a lot of things. Be sure to check it out, or after this webinar, you can reach me, and I can show you how it works in detail. And then all those leads can either land on Pipedrive or Salesforce or Capsule, depending on what CRM do you use. This is kind of the process that I personally use. Of course, I welcome any questions, and I can show around after this webinar. I'm pretty happy to help. So this is something that I think these are the basics of online marketing, right? So use SEO, search engine optimization, have long focus on long tail keywords, provide real value in content marketing, such as these webinars, and please check out our blog, which has a lot of content for developers and also for business people to read about. Be present on social media, and automate a lot of your email marketing or outbound efforts to generate leads even as you sleep, right? So if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So this, the funnel metrics, the online funnel metrics, this is something that I think Łukasz will have more to say than me.
Thank you, Duke. I was expecting you to continue since you started. No worries. As you can see, we overlap each other competencies here, but that's great. So Duke has presented a number of tools and how he does it. I would take like one step back, and I would try to basically introduce you to a concept of you have to measure everything. Some people believe that it's so hard to measure top of the funnel activities, or they have a number of excuses. but actually you can measure everything. If you can't measure it, it's probably not marketing, just wasting money. So for the funnel that we introduced a couple of slides ago, I use a number of metrics, and you can see them here. Some people call them pirate metrics, but basically it's all about measuring conversions between different stages of customer journey in the funnel. So for the start, you need to know how many people do you reach with your message. Not all of them are on your website. When they first visit your website, they are in the acquisition phase. And then they are basically anonymous users of your website or your landing page, campaign, whatever it is. And your goal is very simple and very hard. You need to get the contact data from these people and activate them to share this contact data through different freebies, signups, whatever is the value for a given segment. And then you have to make them come back for more, for second, third, and 10th time. Gary Vaynerchuk, probably some of you know him. He wrote an excellent book about it, Jab, Jab, and Right Hook. I think it summarizes well what is this digital marketing about, and why you need to give value a number of times before you ask for something in return. Of course, the deeper you go into the funnel, the more important things happen for your business. Things like revenue and the ultimate win, which is avid customer. So a customer who could refer your business, your product, who could introduce you to someone. And it depends whether you are a B2B or B2C. It could be more like affiliate with users receiving some feedback for promoting your product. Or in B2B, probably it will be more about personal introductions and your customers becoming your avid fans. So if you could click to the next slide, thank you. So what are the metrics and ultimate objective here? So if you are prudent and you have all the data mentioned on the previous slide, you can calculate your customer lifetime value, and and probably your customer acquisition cost. And your job is to decrease customer acquisition cost and increase customer lifetime value. And you do that by a number of things. Let's start with if you have customer lifetime value X and your acquisition cost is significantly lower than your customer lifetime value, then probably you are missing out some business and you should invest into advertisement. If your customer acquisition cost is approaching at fast pace to your customer lifetime value, there's a problem with your business or your product, or you spend too much on marketing and sales. So there are different proportions of these two metrics that you need to evaluate for your business. And there is a lot of literature about it out there. It all serves the ultimate objective. And the growth objective is acquire as many users or customers as possible while spending as little as possible. Some people call it growth hacking, but for me, it's just reasonable. I would like to get the most out of the least investment. So that's your objective. And to achieve that outcome, you need to do a number of experiments. You need to test. You need to try and fail. And maybe after 7 fails, your 8th attempt will be successful. And when you find this golden nugget, just stick to it and put more money into it. When it comes to the marketing technology, the landscape is enormous. You have today up to 5,000 different tools. I will not do a deep dive into them. You can find a lot of literature the minimal setup for you is to have a digital touch point between your brand and your customers, and tools to measure what happens in this digital touch point. So it could be a website and Google Analytics and spreadsheet. When you're experimenting, probably you want to quickly test whether your strategy or proposition is good. So you would spend more on paid traffic, on advertisement basically, and you would put more people into what you want them to see, and then you would have to measure, does it work? When you find something that works, then probably you should invest into organic traffic and building more around search engine optimization and all of these good things. But for the beginning, I would start with the paid traffic.
So there are a lot of strategies, but I think one of the most important thing in marketing in general is to say no to a lot of things. I think, I hope that Łukasz also agrees with me here. So say no to a lot of things. Say no to a lot of primitive viewpoints, which is taking something that has worked before and then apply to different things. No to fear of real tensions. Be not afraid, to provide messages that are unique and sometimes controversial. And I think that it is something very important, is to be very, let's say, sharp in terms of your image. So the first thing is to have a behavior that changes other behaviors, right? So your strategy is to change the way that customers listen to music or spend their time at home, right? So this is a core thing to do of your strategy, is how to change the behavior of your customers, right? For example, for an iPhone or building like an automated car driving, this is something that requires people to change their behaviors, and with changing their behaviors, they or you kind of create a new market. And this is something that is the cornerstone of building a monopoly, which if Peter Thiel talks a lot about, is that he have building a business is always about building a monopoly. Some will argue of that monopolies are bad, but this is something that you have to have in mind, is that you will build a business to dominate other businesses, and you don't do that by being like having that current behavior and keeping the status quo. Second thing, good ideas rarely comes from within. You have to go outside. You have to go to our customers. You have to, for example, Pixar has a culture of sending their employees to the places that will take place in their movies, is because this is something that they have discovered through numerous movies, and they have when they joined Disney, they implemented that culture of experimenting and exploring, by going outside and by meeting the culture of the people that the movies are going to be about. So number two, always search for ideas or inspiration outside of your organization. Third thing, be really relentless about how you communicate your product, right? So at the end of the day, you have to show the customer what your product can impact to their lives, right? An example being here, for example, right, a cinema, you can describe it as the place where you watch movies, or you can describe it as the place where you can escape your reality, right? So it is another way of showing the product, the way that changes, let's say, the way of interacting with the product. Or Barbie, right? So being boring is something that you can look like as a Barbie, right? Or you can send a message to the girls, right? Get into STEM, get into science, right? This is who you can become. Like there's a latest art of Barbie, which is encouraging girls to take science subjects. It's really beautiful. And your product is essentially the way of communicating your values, which is because of our short time I won't be showing, but there's an ad of Airbnb which shows that it differentiates a lot from Booking.com, which is more like a corporate, let's say, booking site. Airbnb is about feeling at home, being there with the communities that of the host, right? um, you know, um, Broaden your perspectives. So this asking the essential question of why, like when communicating your product, you have to essentially communicate your mission, and this the center of something that you can build your product sales. On top of that, um, deep dive into the life of your audience, be with them, think as them, be, let's say, have empathy with your customers. um, Make your ideas appeal on three levels: on rational need, on emotional need, and social need. Reach fewer people with more personalized nice message. This like a key, let's say, challenge of a startup is that wanting to build a product too for too large market. I have seen that a lot. Entrepreneurs wanting to build like a revolutionary product which is for everyone. But the key here is remember about those beachhead value proposition. Focus on little niche and build your dominance from that niche, right? Say as little as you can. Quality means that's trusting 95% of your ideas. Have too much clusters. Actually, um, make your message blurry. So this is an example from an ad in the United States from Volkswagen. At the beginning, it was whole lot of features, a whole lot of messages from your ad campaign. uh, and when they successfully reduce the message and make it simple but sharp, think small, Volkswagen by won by winning the market with very sharp message, and less cluttered, right? So coming back to your product, focus on delivering value, uh, and your products are just vehicles of your internal either cultural value or something that you personally, as a product designer or product, let's say, CEO, you are aware of. And promote anti-trends, right? This is something that is, I know it's really hard. um, Go against the flow. Think about ideas, think about ways your product can um, acquire customers in ways that no one has have done before, right? So example being Airbnb, where the first, let's say, customer acquisition channel was actually Craigslist. And they what they did was they web scrapped all those Craigslist listings onto their website to first create the supply side of their marketplace, right? Uh, that was unconventional. No one has done that before. It was successful. Of course, later on, it will be very, very hard to replicate because you are essentially the first one to go the anti-trend, right? So, smoothly going into culture, as I mentioned. Um, so Peter Drucker, famously said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Uh, and the point here is that you can have all those strategies and processes in place, and it always starts from the bottom down. But at the end of the day, your company is your people, your company is your employees. So having a culture in place, having the backbone in place, lets the company survive on its own, and even withstanding you or the CEO or the founder being there or not there, right? So what is a company culture? So in short, those are everyday values or core values and behaviors, and each member of the team in pursuit of your company goals, right? In one sentence, I could say that there are three things that are core to the culture. The core value is something unique. Let's say the core value is and it could be easily quantified, right? The core value is open communication. Let's say your core value is being transparent and candid about ways to provide feedback, and the action is the behavior that promotes it is actually have a monthly meeting or like a few days of company vacation, where you all sit together and have kind of open discussion. So those can be actually quantified, as I can show you later on. It can be quantified, and it has been successfully implemented in Intel. Our goal is the objectives and key results, what I say, framework. So why does culture matter? It actually is really important to have your company compete in talent in the marketplace, because actually having a better work culture, a better place to work for, actually constitutes into your bottom line, which is your profit margin, also your top line, which is your revenue. It affects a lot of things in the way they people or your employees generate revenue, and how they efficiently use the resources, so that it drives down the cost, and ultimately acting on the profit or EBIT of your company, right? And it is the core of the company building and scaling up. So from 100 people onwards, this is something that will drive your company into the future, without you being there micromanaging your employees. Famous quote from Tony Hsieh, the founder and CEO of Zappos: "If you get the culture right, most of the other stuff will just take care of itself." Right? This is true, and this is why Zappos won and was later bought by Amazon, right? So what does like an innovative culture look like? So you have a lot of information sharing. The decision making is based on expertise, not on senior, also on your level of seniority. The leadership effectiveness, encouraging experimenting, which is is a core to Amazon, which as launched AWS out of nowhere and grew into the #1, let's say, cloud revenue company. And the relationship between your employees. So there's a strong collaboration across units, and the work execution that is have a continuous improvement mindset. So 4 imperatives when dealing with culture is that you work with and within your existing culture, right? So you don't revolutionize something new and have kind of Facebook or Airbnb style kind of work culture into your existing company, but rather you find the best traits into your existing one. Start with changing behaviors, not mindsets. Mobilize rational and emotional forces. Look on top, something that is visible and invisible, and use viral methods, which is to encourage, let's say, something that my previous company called a critical view. I will explain on that later on. So number 1, work within your existing culture. Understand the good and the bad about your existing culture, and accelerate the good ones. Right? So remember, it's a long race, and the culture changes slowly. So you need to implement as early as possible. But don't ever forfeit your current culture, but emphasize on the good side of that. And start with changing behaviors. Right? So those are the actions of, don't force just force, the way of change of acting rather than the way of thinking. So there are a lot of rational and emotional forces which you should, prioritize. So rational forces are being, structure and processes that, encourage innovation or open communication, for example. And as for emotional side, you have commitment and pride for each individual, to reach their goals. So it all constitutes to a circle, being you have to work on the both side of the forces, the rational forces, the emotional forces, to effectively implement culture into your own organization. To spread it efficiently, by spreading it efficiently, meaning that focus on a core few individuals or leadership, people who have natural, let's say, affection for other employees, and make them into those clusters, build communities around interests, tribes, circles, tribes in Spotify. It affects both formal and informal behavior in your company. So how do you motivate people? And maybe Łukasz.
Yes, thank you. So now I will spend a couple of minutes on the topic of how to motivate people to do what you want. Let's be frank. We have some common goal as a company, and I wanted to share with you what I've learned about motivations, how to motivate people at the workplace. Because too often people think there is no better way than carrot and stick. Could you? Thank you. So there are two types of motivation, controlled motivation and autonomous motivation. So what is it? Controlled motivation is doing something in order to get some reward or to avoid punishment. It means that you do something because you're feeling pressured, demanded, obliged to do so. And that's probably a feeling that most of us know from the past. Whereas the autonomous motivation, it's something that you're doing with a sense of willingness, volition, and choice. So you enjoy it and you have sense of value in your work. How to achieve that state? Why to achieve it? Well, there are a number of researchers out there who are running experiments for dozens of years, and the experiments clearly shows following: the performance and the wellness and engagement of the employees are greater when they are autonomously motivated. So you can find this data. I will show you where later on, but it shows you that this is a fact. It's something that you have to consider, because not all companies can allow themselves to change the culture or to introduce autonomous motivation model. But if you can, you should consider it. So what is it that plays this kind of magic here? So the model says that there are some basic human needs that have to be satisfied. It's really important that they are satisfied, because by doing so, positive outcome will follow. So what are the needs that you need to satisfy? Firstly, people, when they feel competent on what they are doing, that satisfies the need of competency. People need to feel relatedness, meaning that they need to feel cared by others, or they have to feel that they care for others. that they belong to some group, to some community that is important for them. So relatedness. And the third thing is to feel autonomous, to be able to influence what how I do things. And these three elements, competence, relatedness, and autonomy, are like basic psychological human needs. And when you create a company that satisfies these needs, you achieve actually something extraordinary because people are autonomously motivated. So what's the proposition from this theory, and what is it? So Richard Bryant and Edward Deci, they are working on self-determination theory. And the proposition here is that if you support your employees' psychological needs, they will autonomously motivate themselves, and positive consequences will follow. What are the positive consequences? So their performance, the wellness, engagement are greater than in the controlled motivation model. So it all sounds great. How to do it? So I will give you quickly a case study of a creative agency. And I will tell you what was done and how it was implemented and what was the outcome. So it all started with a big kickoff and all kind of marketplace meeting for all employees, where head of HR introduced a new annual and yearly appraisal model. And after the kind of big introduction behind the curtain, one of the employees asked this head of HR, do you want to reduce me to a number? And that was a big kind of moment for the head of HR, because he felt that there's something fundamentally wrong with this model in this company culture. And he looked for something better. And this head of HR found this theory of self-motivation. And he trained himself, basically. Then he trained the kind of leadership, and he basically made a case why companies should try it. This theory, this model replaced the old school appraisals and whatnot. Staff was introduced to the basic elements of this theory, and the big change came in the kind of how the work was assigned. So the assignment of the work was focused on what should be done, not how it should be done. The how element was left for the employees to figure it out. And company also invested into community building activities, so people feel more related to their colleagues, to the company itself, to customers, and time and budget were secured for competence building. So it all happened in a period of basically 1 year. If you could click. And the outcome was that basically the leaders were empowered more. Happy was staff was happier, and company tripled in size. And in terms of top line and bottom line, yeah, they have experienced double-digit growth. So it probably doesn't explain all the positive consequences of what I just presented here. But what I'm trying to say is that whatever is the motivational model that you're pursuing, if autonomy is involved into it, you will build organization that will grow with and later without you. And that's your ultimate goal, to build an organization that scale, that has a common goal, and that is motivated to do so.
Okay, this is something I'm going to talk about real quick because we have 5 minutes, right? This is a tool, right? So all kind of measuring culture and measuring the objectives and results of the company. This is one of the tools, right? The tool is called OKR. It has been implemented by John Doerr, a very famous VC into Google. Um, so the goal here is to align, your employees and your everyone, mission into your company's mission. So in order to do that, you have objectives for each department, for each employee, which is clearly defined by a goal, and then a set of key results which will lead to that goal. And all those objectives has to be, contribute to the vision of the company, right? So very simple in practice. You put out a company objective or mission. You have bi-weekly, weekly, or even monthly statuses. Looking into your measurable key results, your midterm goals. Have your OKR coach to lead a certain department or teams. All those key results have to be measured in percentage way. So each month, that percentage for the key results for that objective has to go up, right? So in order to achieve, let's say, $5 million of sales in 6 months, you have achieved now like $3 million. So you're 60% on the way to to drive sales revenue for the whole company, right? So very simple tool. So I'm just gonna lay out, very key, let's say, culture traits or like unique values that each company example has here. So Airbnb, yeah, for Airbnb, and those are things that taken from from the founders or CEOs or the employees who gave their reviews on for example from Glassdoor. Airbnb is an open and transparent communication company and focus on mission, right? So Brian Chesky, personally interviewed first 300 employees of the company, and he often relates to Airbnb as a family which has a common mission, right? So everyone that has some kind of mission focus on building a better place for hosts and for for people renting those places, and they're all on a mission. And they were actually ranked #1 in best workplace to work for in 2016. Amazon is a perfect example of a company which doesn't have like a fuzzy, warm, like kind of culture, that it still is efficient and effective. So their keyword is relentless and customer centric. Be bold, right? So that's Amazon. Zappos is about creating creativity and always serving customers first, right? So they were one of the first to introduce open office, open space office, and individuals having their desk virtually personalized as their own. Right? So Pixar is the culture of candid, of direct and candid communication. Candid meaning like you have so much trust among the employees is that you can say whatever you want. I mean, in a way that doesn't hurt personal feelings, but be very direct in terms of providing feedback to your fellow employees, and a flat hierarchy, of course, right? So I really recommend always reading the books. Delivering happiness from Tony Hsieh, Creativity Inc. from Ed Catmull, about the culture of Pixar, the Airbnb story of Leigh Gallagher. Those are the books I recommend. I welcome a few minutes of Q&A, and I think we should be wrapping up. If you have any questions, type it down. And if you need the materials, the presentation, we're happy to email that to you. If you have questions about the sales processes, anything related to this presentation, of course, hit me up on my email, duke.vu.hoang@pragmaticoders.com. I'm happy to take a call and to meet you guys. So, do you have any questions?
it looks like what we have presented was self-explanatory.
Right, perfect.
I don't see any questions on the chat, or everyone fell asleep.
Not. Right. Okay. So no questions. You are more than welcome to hit me on the email, and be sure to provide your email so that we can send you the materials. For me, that's all from my part. Thank you for organizing this webinar, Łukasz.
Thank you, Duke, for excellent performance and showing us your insights. Thank you guys for being with us. Have a good day.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.